See us. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okie doke. Jack, please. Oops, I missed John, but I'll go back to John after Jack.
Okay, kia ora everyone. So I'm Jack, I'm 20, I'm a student and I live in the northeast. So you've heard a lot so far, from poisoning children, responsible for death and divorce, to being behind secret plots designed by the UN. Some more down to earth simply have said that you just need to see your finances more like a household, where with ballooning debt and out of control spending, you need to focus on the must-haves, pay off debt, and then start looking at the nice-to-haves. Now, despite this being an incredibly rudimentary way of looking at council finance, where do you sit in this comparison? Typical advice is that a reasonable mortgage to buy a home is 3 times your annual income, although currently in Christchurch the average is 6.6 times. For your debt, it's 2 billion. That's a scary number, but your revenue is 1.4. So that means that's 1.4 times your annual income. On the household comparison, there's a tick. Take your credit rating. Standard & Poor's gives you a quite good AA. Therefore, this independent analysis also says you're doing quite well and can borrow at a low interest rate as well. What about must-haves? Well, this is also incredibly rudimentary. You are not a household of 5, you're a city of 400,000-ish. There are very diverse needs that some see as absolutely necessary and some see as frivolous. For myself, who takes the bus lanes, cycleways, good libraries with long operating hours are an absolute must and affect my life massively. By choosing to slash as currently proposed, you avoid an even higher rates rise. However, you will only be adding to our large infrastructure deficit that my generation will inevitably have to pay off through continually high rates rises, all whilst missing out on necessary infrastructure. So I first want to touch on the central city. This is your golden goose, and I worry you're about to kill it, or at least stunt its growth for a decade. The central city is the area with the highest land and capital values, therefore a very good return on rates versus the total land area, meaning that you get a good bang for buck investing in its infrastructure. Investing in the central city will result in more tourism, consumer spending, employment, residents, and it just so happens that you have targets to hit related to all of these. With this being said, a majority of the central city projects have been cut. This goes directly against your central city targets and lacks long-term fiscal prudence. This area is the most fiscally solvent, and with continued investment, that will only increase. This scale of cuts, I believe, is irresponsible. For example, Foodstuffs has held a large piece of land hostage on the corner of Salisbury Street and Manchester until the Salisbury Street two-way project is complete. Significantly, this area is a bit of a food desert, with few options by foot, which stunts potential commercial and residential growth. I firmly believe that projects such as this, as well as MCRs, cycle connections, local cycle routes and more, should not simply be cut and should instead use cheap, quick trials like Gloucester Street to get them done. For the Salisbury Street example, a lick of paint, traffic lights and a Rolliston Ave cycleway on both sides will get this done, and then possibly, hopefully, enable a new supermarket in the city where it is desperately needed. To help pay for this, you should reinstate central city development contributions and targeted rates, as homes and businesses will directly benefit from these projects. I also believe that the central city differential rate should be increased and surface level car parks should no longer be exempt. To reiterate, I ask you to keep the central city projects. Investing in the city will pay back dividends and is not just another suburb, it is your heart. Parking. So, Hagley Park parking fees, I think it's a shame that this is even in the LTP. Asking residents if it is okay to start charging to gain extra revenue just makes residents believe that this is just a revenue gathering tool. This is a very poor way of looking at parking charges. They should be used as a means of demand management, where if an area is at capacity, charges should be introduced in order to manage that demand. If it is done this way, then everyone wins. For those who really need a park, there should always be one there. For the council, there is increased revenue that should be ring-fenced to the local area to pay for parks, bus lanes, stops, and general public realm improvements. To conclude, a 13% rates rise is shocking, but it is the result of low rates rises year after year. After the long term, Over the long term, some of you, or some that came before you, were elected on platforms of magical thinking. The thinking that you can provide low rates rises, better services, better infrastructure, little to no intensification, and a primary focus on cars. This is a path to insolvency and is irresponsible. Year after year, rises have been lower than what they should be, despite increasing expectations from resident and government. The chickens have truly come back to roost. Do not continue to make the same mistakes by only thinking about next October. Think long term, invest in active and public transport that will be affordable to residents and council, and expand the rate space in existing areas through intensification. Expand the use of parking charges, fines, development contributions, targeted rates, and lobby our new transport and local government minister, who seems all too keen on introducing new charges. This is the path to enable a financially solvent future and to avoid the headache you are dealing with today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, there's no time for questions, but thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
John, sorry, you were sitting so quietly up there, I missed you.